There is a guy standing in my studio behind me, and nobody even noticed the other day. He's been there. Eddie George is back there wearing his Eddie George jersey. He's got the white jersey on with the black helmet. Now, I wasn't a fan of the black uniforms, as you guys know. I know everybody likes them, so I want them to be in play because everybody likes them. I just don't personally care for them. But the black helmet with the black undershirt and the white jersey, it's a pretty sweet look. You ever have an idea and in your head you think like this is going to look awesome and then it doesn't quite turn out how you thought? So, you know, the dummies, they got not dummies, but like mannequins, they get the muscled up mannequins and they're wearing the uniform. They have them at like, you know, Big Ten media days, or if you ever go to an event, and they'll just have them in the uniform, right? Like dudes in the uniform. I thought, why don't I just get a mannequin? I've got everything I can dress them up in, right? I've got everything I need except for pants. I don't got Ohio State pants. You can't find them anywhere. If you can find me a pair of Ohio State pants, let me know. Right now, our dude, our Eddie, is wearing K-State pants because you can find pants from everywhere. Can't find Ohio State pants. I don't mean pants you or I would wear. I mean football pants. So if you find them, let me know. The email address is always here at the bottom. And I appreciate, I've gotten plenty of emails here recently, a lot about Mrs. Juckster, who's doing very well tonight. So I appreciate all you guys. And people email me random things, and I always like those. So go ahead and fire one off. Feel free if you find some pants or for any reason, really. But welcome to the show. Appreciate you so much for joining me. Please do hit the like button. We are trying to get our subscriber count up to 45% of those who watch regularly being subscribed. Currently, that's at about 42%. We'd like to get that up to 40. Or is it the other way around? It's 40% who aren't subscribed. That's what it is. 40% are not subscribed. So we want to get that up. And just a little bit there would certainly help. Certainly help us here. We got some more fallout from the Sharon Moore situation. We've got, obviously, the Belitnikoff Award to talk about. But I wanted to start off tonight with Legendary Bey as the 2026 class. Almost complete, we hope, or it might be complete, depending on what happens here with Legend. And we might have some news here. Now, I guess I should go back for those who didn't follow this closely. I'm guessing most of you did, but taking it from this top here, North Forney quarterback, Legendary Bey, absolute ridiculous athlete, 10.3 100-meter guy who is a quarterback in high school, but not going to be a quarterback in college. And when this dude is out in the open field, he's just one of those unique runners with the football. I mean, you know, he sees it in a different way, and he has the speed to get to places that people can't get, to take angles that most couldn't dare take. They wouldn't be successful. Legend, he's successful with them. The name is fitting. I talked to him for the first time when Ohio State offered him. Carlos Loughlin offered him, the running backs coach, and he was down there offering some high priority running backs down in Texas. And when Ohio State offered him, I didn't really think anything was going to come of it because he was still at the time saying he wanted to go somewhere where he could play quarterback. Certainly you understand that, but odds are the Ohio States and Bamas of the world weren't going to be offering him at quarterback. Ohio State, when they bring in a guy like this, who's kind of the jack of all trades offensive weapon, it hasn't always worked out well, right? It hasn't, it just, you know, it takes creativity. You gotta want to use a guy like that. And I feel like those guys, that style of player has always really worked well at an Oregon or at a West Virginia, where they're like the best athlete and you have no choice but to find ways to get them the ball. And that seems to work when you got places that have great athletes at all positions. They just tend to not fool with it. You got to get creative, but as his recruitment went on, he ends up committing to Tennessee. And I thought that was it. Done deal. He's going to Tennessee to play receiver in Josh Heupel's offense, which doesn't really develop receivers or put them in the NFL. It's the style of the air raid. It's just not good for receivers. Ohio State ends up getting Favor Aki in the class as the running back, local kid out of Delaware. And when you look at the two freshmen succeed right now with Isaiah West and Bo Jackson, and then you look at the following class with David Gabriel George, one running back is clear here. You also got Turbo Rogers, in last year's freshman class. So Faber Key was going to be fine. But then we started seeing, okay, well, let's all get another player at each position. And Carlos Lachlan started picking up the heat with Amari Latimer, who is the running back out of Georgia that was committed to Wisconsin. And that looked pretty good, like it was going to happen real quick. And then it slowed down, and Latimer wanted to take some more looks. So he visited Miami and Tennessee, ended up at West Virginia. Yeah. And the Buckeyes kind of doubled down out of nowhere on Legend Bey. Now, Legend Bey was committed to Tennessee, decided to come take an official visit to Ohio State. And I talked to him for the second time after that official to Ohio State, and he was blown away, loved everything they told him. They were going to use him in all different ways. He was stoked, and it was in a way that was like, this isn't packaged and canned. When you talk to these guys after officials, a lot of times it's just always, what you would think they would say, right? Everything was this and that, and just like the same answer, reading on 3. Well, he said the exact same thing here and the exact same thing here. This was different, man. This dude was giddy. He was excited. He was going to flip. That was apparent, and he did. Then we got to signing day, and I was on here live on signing day. And as the names are rolling in, we're talking, obviously, Chris Henry Jr. was the big talk. Brian Hartline was the big talk. And Jerquaden Guilford was the big talk. Caden Dixon-Wyatt had already flipped to USC. The Legend Bey talk was kind of like, all right, not really. Let's not get into that now. But people were putting in the comments, something's wrong. He's not signing today. And at that point, it's like, not a big deal. Afterwards, got done with the show. It was probably not even 9 o'clock. And I start reading into what everybody's talking about. Now, Legend, 17 years old at the time of signing day, going to be 18 in 3 weeks. And there was a story by a guy out of Texas 247 site, Mike Roach, and he broke down the entirety of signing day. Now, apparently his name does go and get signed at Tennessee, and Mike Roach is basically saying that they came for signing day to the school. Coaches were like there to make sure the mom and the son didn't get in a fight because they'd been disagreeing. As the son wants to go to Ohio State, the mom thinks he'll be a better fit at Tennessee. The table, as he comes into school, is set up with Ohio State gear on the table. Not gear, cookies and cakes and stuff, Ohio State stuff. He's not wearing Ohio State stuff, but he's standing near the table. Teachers and stuff are coming, congratulating him and the other kids that are all committing. There's a lot of great athletes at North Forney High. And Mike Roach describes the day. And he describes the day, and it sounds like he's really well sourced on this. He's talking multiple sources. And at one point, they were about 15 minutes from getting it squared away, and it was going to be Ohio State. And then North Forney coaches got a call from Ohio State saying it's Tennessee. And that paperwork goes through Tennessee. And then stories start coming out about his mom potentially forging his signature to Tennessee, driving up from Texas to Tennessee to get them the signature. And it all sounded so crazy that I started having some serious doubts about it. Now, I asked him immediately, basically about that picture, right? That picture, because I wasn't putting it together yet. I was like, if you came and you were going to choose Tennessee, like if you were flipping, like when did you find out about the Heartline? Like, why was the table still set up for Ohio State stuff? He said that it was just set up from the school. They set it up for him the night before he comes to school. He said he didn't find out about the Heartline stuff till the night before. And the reason that he was leaving, Heartline talked to him about Tyreek Hill role, and he didn't really want to be a running back, which is not what he had said previously. Now, so right now, when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, okay, maybe this story by this Mike Roach is totally overblown. Maybe he's being lied to or something like that, because it seems clear like this is a really simple decision for a guy. If Brian Hartline was the reason he was coming, right? And I start thinking maybe he just wanted to get into that wide receiver room, smart kid, right? And that's kind of how I was viewing it. All right, he really just wants to play receiver, wants to go to Tennessee. Then That same Twitter account comes out later on in the afternoon and says that very day, my Instagram account has been hacked by my brother, not hacked, but my brother has locked me out of my Instagram account because the brother has access. And I'll probably be locked out of this account too. He also tweets a picture of Ryan Day and Carlos Lachlan with a Legendary Bey player, like with their arms around him, like, we got your back. And it's like, wow, man, it certainly sounds now like that story might have been true. But then I'm thinking, well, why did he tell me that this morning? And then what if he wasn't the guy who typed out that message on the Twitter account? If the brother has access to the Twitter account, maybe he wasn't the one who thumbed that. Maybe it was the brother. And maybe he just had a change of heart quickly. Who knows, man? The whole story has been so bizarre trying to follow it. Why would Tennessee even accept this commitment? Why would they accept this paperwork with all this going on? They don't need this. They just went through Squirrel White and another guy with some goofy stuff like this. You either want to be there or you don't. You certainly don't want to try to lock somebody in, and it doesn't work this day and age anyway. Kid's going to be 18 in 3 weeks. Maybe they wanted to get him on campus and try and change his mind, or maybe he's not telling him the same thing. Not telling Tennessee the same thing. Maybe he's telling Tennessee, yeah, he's good with it. Who knows, man? Who knows? They know he can leave if he wants to on January 2nd. When the portal opens, he could leave before that. If, whether they let him out or not, like let's say, for instance, the portal didn't open for 6 months. If he wanted to leave, he could make it happen, whether Tennessee agreed or not. That's just the way it goes these days. But all of last week, radio silence. Tennessee announced him as one of the members of their class. And here we are, just kind of waiting to see what happens. Does he end up joining the class come portal time, etc.? And obviously people trashing the mom and what she up to. Did she get money, and is she going to owe the money back? Or maybe Legend will owe the money back that the mom took, and all this kind of soap opera stuff. Mike Roach reports again today, the same day that I talked to someone earlier this afternoon that said they think Legendary Bey to the Buckeyes is definitely happening. And Mike Roach now says, and Mike Roach, the guy who wrote the whole stuff from the beginning, that he is being told whatever release that Tennessee needs to do is close to being finalized. And he is now told that he is expected to be a Buckeye. Boom. I am so pumped about this, man. This class really feels like it needs this. And when we look at the playmakers in this class, when we talk about at the quarterback and at the running back position, the way this is being kind of spread out now is you're kind of going expensive guy, investment guy, top tier guy every other year, right? So Tavian St. Clair, Luke Fahey, Brady Edmonds, for instance, at quarterback. At running back, you got Bo Jackson. Next class, you're going to go after the number one guy in David Gabriel George. In between is Favorite Key. Good players, right? But they're not those, we are positive about this player, so we are going to invest a ton of money in him because that's what it's going to cost to get him. And when we look at those two, when we look at tight end with Nick Latour, Max Sutter was the playmaker tight end that Keenan wanted. And Nick is a guy who's fully capable, but he's just not, that first round draft pick type of guy, that investment guy. So the class offensively looked like it might be lacking a little bit of playmaker ability. And if you didn't get Chris Henry, it really would be, but you did get Chris. You ended up holding on to Jaquaden Guilford, and now bringing our man Legend into the class. Now you've got playmaking ability all over the place, and I love it. He's just a different type of dude. So I'm so excited about him. I think he's just obviously we're doing class superlatives here next week. And in the class superlatives, we are certainly going to have the wildest recruitment, and you already know who wins because this has been the wildest recruitment, not in the Ohio State class, but around the country in a couple of years. This one's been bizarre, obviously not over yet. Cannot wait to see how it ends, but Going to be fun, and it looks like all systems go pointing towards the Buckeyes as of now. Moving along to our next story of the night, the Belitnikoff. JJ lost. JJ, in his second year at Ohio State, has not won the Belitnikoff Award. Lost it to Makai Lemon of USC, who's a dog. He's a great wide receiver. When you compare the numbers for the two, Makai Lemon, 79 receptions, Jeremiah 80, basically a wash. Yards, Lemon, 1156, JJ, 1080, essentially a wash. Both of them have 11 touchdowns. Stats are the same. They're the same. Jeremiah won Big Ten Receiver of the Year. A huge award. Not the Belitnikov. Blitnikov is a major award. That is, that's a resume kind of honor, right? A Belitnikov Award winner. And JJ now, year 2, doesn't get it. Got 1 year left in college. Thing is, we have all known he's been the best wide receiver. That even sounds insulting, right? We came into this season and everybody who covers college football, who is a fan of college football, readily acknowledged that Jeremiah Smith is the best player in college football. He was the best player in college football coming out of his freshman year. Like throughout the last half of that year and coming into this year, certainly the best player entering the season, and did nothing but look. He didn't have, by his standards, the most massive numbers that he could. Like, picture him 6 years ago in Ryan Day's offense, what those numbers could be. That's not the offense he's playing in right now. We know this. And it shows up in the snap count. Lemon, I believe 120 more snaps and 70 more passing snaps is how much more he was on the field than JJ was. And that's a product of the offense. That sucks. But when we look at these guys on the football field, when we look at how much Jeremiah affects the way a defense plays, they just totally change what they do to try to account for him, to try to guard from getting torched by him. And maybe there was one thing this year that JJ didn't do quite as good as he did as a freshman. It was contested balls. I remember there was a time after, I think, the Illinois game, I was looking at that, and Carnell was like 10 of 11 on contested balls, and Jeremiah was like 4 of 12. And that was interesting because we were used to seeing him come down with like all those, a 50-50 ball to JJ, not a 50-50 ball. And that wasn't as good as it was. I don't know if we saw as many of the short behind the line of scrimmage throws turn into, longer runs after catch. But regardless, man, everybody knows this guy, the wide receiver who finished 6th in the Heisman voting, is the best wide receiver in college football, if not the very best player. I still think he's the best player. I don't think it's really close. The dude's just different. I think you could put him on any single team, and it's just, he's such a dynamic tool. He makes, as a wide receiver, so much more of a difference on a football team than any other wide receiver would, because he just changes everything. And I think that Jeremiah is obviously pissed about this. He put out a meme with a guy, and the guy is, I'd play it, but I can't. It's from a TV show, so it would get flagged. But the guy's not happy, and he's basically saying, anybody who did anything to me, I'm coming for him. And Jeremiah is coming for him, which is probably a good thing for us as we head into the playoffs, that Jeremiah has that mindset. But these guys did the same thing to Marv his sophomore year when Marvin should have won. They made up for it his junior year. I believe they will with Jeremiah too. But he should have had 2, man. Should have had 2 of these things. Should have had 2. When we look at like these guys' stats, the same, like the regular stats, even when we look at like more in-depth stats, like yards after catch per reception, 4.4 for JJ and 6.4 for Lemon. That's like the one stat I could find that there's a difference, and Lemon a little bit higher than him. But really, so much of these guys' stats were the same. It was almost eerie. But really disappointing stuff. When we look at the guys that are up for the other awards, obviously Julian's not winning the Heisman. We know that. And Caleb won the Ronnie Lott Award, which is great. He's obviously up for several more, so we'll see how that goes. But moving along, video footage leaks today of, not leaks, I guess it's public record, of Sharon Moore in court with the prosecutor talking to the judge, basically telling the judge what happened or what he's charged with. And she says that he burst in the girlfriend's house or the mistress' house, I don't know what you call her, and says, "Your blood's on my hands," grabbed a couple of butter knives and a pair of kitchen shears and said, "Your blood's on my hands, etc. My life's over." Just some really out there stuff, man. And it's sad. She was obviously terrified. So she called her lawyer, then police. My wife said, "That's interesting." She called her lawyer first. You would think so, wouldn't you? Yeah, that's a little interesting. I don't have any more to weigh in on this other than that's what happened, because I weighed in on it a little bit the other day and I got so many other comments that it's just like, whoa, man, like, hey, I'm just a guy looking at this, observing. So I'm just going to shut my mouth about it and tell you what happened. That's what happened. As of now, Michigan has lost 2 recruits so far from the class. Matt Ludwig, who's a tight end that I loved, from Billings, Montana. And if this kid wasn't from Montana, right, if the competition he wasn't playing didn't look like that video of Arch Manning with those little guys bouncing off of him, dude, this kid is legit. And he's already signed at Texas Tech. So he's flipped. He's out. Then they lost Bear McWhorter, who I was just talking about the other day. Big time interior offensive lineman that they beat out Alabama for. And he's going to be a stud. So they've currently lost 2. And we'll see how many they end up losing. Now, the Instagram model that has been floating around online, that Sharon Moore was messaging her at halftime of several high-profile games, including the game, was the one that he was following on his public Instagram account, wide out in the open for anybody to see who wanted to. And I think that we're going to see this girl wants some attention. I think we'll probably see her on somebody's show who wants to get some quick, easy, cheap ratings to try to bring her on. That girl's going to be somewhere talking about this, no doubt about it. As for the replacement, there's still a lot of talk about Kalen DeBoer, which I still think is ridiculous. He's not going anywhere. A lot of talk about Jesse Minter and when his show cause ends, their former DC, which just kills me, man, because I would be, the fan base seems excited. They would love that good hire. I agree. But to bring in a Jim Harbaugh assistant seems amazing to me, and incredibly, like, to even think that would be an option. You need to wipe this program clean of that era. No ties, not a single tie to the Harbaugh area, and set up, like, reset, no more, new ground moving forward. Not a single element of his program needs to be there anymore. And that would be my stance. If I was a Michigan fan, I would not want anything to do with Harbaugh in the program. That's it. It's over. The most ridiculous period we've ever seen in Michigan football. Kenny Dillingham, obviously high on everybody's list. And why wouldn't he be? If Ohio State was looking for a head coach, Kenny Dillingham would be high on my list. But Kenny Dillingham, that's being well received, obviously, is a dude who is coaching at his alma mater, who I have heard talk about his family being close, got young kids, they go to grandma's, and that seems really, really important to him at this point. Seems really important to him to be a man of his word and respect what he has told those guys that have come in to join his program, that he's recruited them, and he's going to be there. And I just don't feel like he's going to leave either. So I don't think it's going to be any of those guys. And Obviously, there's plenty of other candidates, but those three that are the three most talked about right now, I don't think that's happening. Did get a comment yesterday from, actually, I got quite a few. Why don't we go through some of the comments before we sign off? We'll start off with this one from one of our friends up north who says LSU over Michigan. That's why people can't take you seriously. Can't even pronounce Sharona's name correctly. Shaking my head. Dude, I hate to break this to you, but there are three jobs that everybody puts above all the other jobs. And that's Ohio State and Texas for obvious reasons. And LSU is in there. Now, the reason LSU isn't Ohio State and Texas because the brand isn't that of Ohio State and Texas. LSU isn't the brand of Michigan either. I'll give you that. Few can compete with the Michigan brand. It's right up there with Ohio State and Texas and Notre Dame. Those four brands are the biggest in football. But what LSU has, also what Ohio State has, three separate coaches in this century that have won national championships. A coach looks at that and says, and who were those coaches? Oh, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron. Yeah, I can win a national championship there. It's a state flushed with talent that loves to stay home. They've got money, they've got backing, they've got an amazing venue. They are diehard about their football. And if you win there, you are the man. And it's absolutely a more desirable job to most coaches than Michigan. A guy like Matt Campbell would disagree. He would have been a Michigan guy if those two presented themselves. But yes, this isn't even a debate. Everybody knows this. This is not like my opinion and strictly my opinion and an out there opinion. I have some. This one isn't one. No doubt about that. So I'm sorry if that offends you or hurts your feelings. That's just what it is. Robert Tucker Jr. says Michigan State's endowment is $4.6 billion. Michigan's is $22 billion. Oh yeah. Sparty is just swimming in money compared to Michigan. Dude, do your research. This is in response to Michigan State. I did a video. They got a $400 million check scratched to them. 300 of it for football, 100 of it for a new entity that they're coming up with to make money for athletics. And this is money that has been written to them specifically to spend on football right now. And that is very different than an endowment. The hoops you got to jump through to get money out of that endowment to just spend right now on football, whole lot to be done. But Stanford's got a $40 billion endowment. I mean, that's generally, it's just a different deal. The point is, how much are you investing in football right now? Number one. Number two, I don't think I ever mentioned in there how much Michigan was spending on football. I believe, and I just said in my episode yesterday, that if Michigan gets a big time coach on the hook here, this coach is absolutely going to say, what can you commit to me for football? And they're going to give him a figure and he's going to say, no, I need this much more than that. Michigan's going to go to the donors. They're going to be excited and they're going to give him that money. And he's going to have a lot of money to play with. Now, the reason that we just watched Michigan's class 2 years ago, the 2025 class, go from the 5th ranked class in the country to the 11th ranked class in the country, in my opinion, the donors lost faith in Sharon and they stopped. We saw the class start off really fast, the 2026 class. And then I think the funds kind of dried up. You bring in another big time dude and they're ready. They're ready to play ball in a big time way. That's my opinion on that. Now, moving along here, Sampson says, Fitz never beat Michigan while at Northwestern. He's talking about Pat Fitzgerald. He was also at Northwestern. Like, what? I'm stunned the way some people judge coaches. Like, obviously, you give a guy grace when he's coaching at a place with clear limitations. Unreal. Michael Newberg, the reason we hate Caden Curry is that he loved Tom Allen and was coming to IU. Then he flipped. So he's a turncoat. Better settle in Ohio because we don't want him back. You don't want Caden Curry back. Now, listen, Newberg, let me tell you something. There is no player in that era of Indiana football who would not come to Ohio State if offered by Ohio State. Didn't happen. Never happened. Maybe somewhere else, but Ohio State has never lost a battle in recruiting to Indiana till recently. Couldn't flip Jaden Williams. Couldn't do it. One of our guys. Different era now, but not that era. You can't be mad at Caden Curry for not signing up to go to Indiana at that point in time in Indiana football. However, I do respect you for being an Indiana fan long enough to know that. So props to you. Travis's friend says, that was the worst game I've seen Ohio State play all year. Now, while that's true, it's also excuse making, man. Look, here's the deal. You play an opponent, and the opponent has a whole lot to do with how good you play. So when you play a bad game, a lot of times it's compounded and you play much worse because the opponent's really good. And I think that they deserve to be respected enough to not say, we lost because we just played bad. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that I find, like when people say that when they lose to Ohio State, like Oregon said that after the Rose Bowl last year. Yes, they did play bad. Why did they play bad? Because Ohio State kicked their keister, right? APKN says, you're on the mark 99.9% of the time. Oh, I don't know about that, but thanks, pal. I disagree that he, Sharon Moore, could have rebuilt his career without the criminal charges. So when I said that, like, I was probably 20 minutes from tweeting out a picture of Bobby Petrino in his neck brace with his face all scratched up at his Arkansas press conference. And as we remember, Bobby Petrino, as the head coach at Arkansas, literally the exact same scenario. A subordinate worked for him, an affair. Everybody found out. And Petrino, unlike Sharon Moore, a guy that everybody despises, everybody hates him, but unlike Moore, a guy who's got a really great offensive mind. So he was always a commodity, and he always had a job in football. And at some point, maybe he has another kind of big job. He was the interim at Arkansas, right? So my point was, looking at Petrino and the way things went with him, yeah, the world's have changed. Societal norms have changed. Standards change. People look at things differently as years go on. And that was a little while back now. So, you know, maybe not. But I think my point was, it wasn't all is lost at that point for him. And certainly it is now. He took it to an unacceptable level. And Cal says, we got a Ferrari and driving it like a Volkswagen by a teenage girl. Assume they're talking about the Ohio State offense. And I could not agree more. So frustrating. But Ryan Day said when it's time to step on it, he's going to step on it. I've listened to plenty of Buckeye fans who have told me, Chuck, it was the Big Ten championship game. That's why he didn't step on it. Now it's really time. All right. Take your word for it. Now it's really time. Let's see it. I sure hope so. I want it to look like Tennessee. That's what I want it to look like. All right, guys. I was going to do the class superlatives tonight, but I think I've babbled on long enough. Not to mention it's Friday night. Nobody watches shows that come out on Friday night or Saturday morning. So there's just going to be the diehards. It's going to be me and you tonight, guys. So we'll wait to do the superlatives for when some more people want to watch on Monday or something. As for this weekend, I don't know if there's going to be much to talk about. Maybe if there is, I'll pop on and talk about it. If not, I won't. But I do appreciate y'all so much. Thanks for joining. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Chuck and Bucks out.